Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Cheltenham Roar, brought to you by Prestbury.bet and oddschecker. This is the show where we look ahead to the weekend's racing and go through the cards with a look at the Cheltenham Festival as well, because it's not long now. Next month, of course, the Cheltenham Festival. We'll be looking through the racing on Saturday at Newbury and at Warwick to get any clues that we can. I'm your host, George Ellick, and delighted to be joined, as ever, by Oddschecker's very own Andy Holding and Oddschecker's very own Ginger Joe, making his first appearance on the show this series. How are you, Joe?
Oh, very well, George. Yeah, nice to see you. Nice to be on with Andy, as always, too. We're less than 5 weeks away from the good stuff now, so exciting. Looking to start getting the squads finalised and things like that. So, yeah, delighted to be on. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure, as always. And Andy, how you getting on?
Yeah, slightly better week this week, although I've managed to get another one done at 100 to 1 on today. Storming George at Doncaster to match that one at Leopardstown, that one that we highlighted on the show last week.
Unbelievable that.
Oh,
that was
crawl beyond crawl, wasn't it? Yeah.
I was busy, and I must admit, Andy, when obviously I couldn't watch the race. I was at lunch with friends, and I saw a late Sunday lunch. This was in the bumper on the Sunday. What was the horse's name? Royal Hillsborough.
Right, yeah.
And when I saw I had a message from you, I just assumed that we'd backed a winner. You know, because you just think Andy's messaging me. It's obviously him saying, "I hope you back that." And I open it and it's just said sickener. And I wish I hadn't watched the highlights back. Do we think he thought the 50-yard pole was the post?
100%. Yeah, definitely. It was just one of those things, wasn't it, with a lad who hasn't ridden many times. Not sure how many times he would have ridden at Leopardstown either. Some would say, well, why are those markers in place there? Because they can be a little bit confusing. He wouldn't be the first jockey that's done that in the history of the game. There's been plenty of other jockeys with more experience than him that's seen a marker 50 yards from the post and thought, that's it, I've won. But yeah, I mean, all he had to do was just keep it going for another 25 yards and he would have won. But yeah, and the other one just came back.
Almost unlucky that it was, because he was so, he went past so easily.
I know.
That he didn't
just
hold
carry
on.
on riding. Well, some jockeys carry on riding after the line, don't they? And they just head down and
it's easy for us
keep
to
the momentum going.
Knackered.
Yeah, he probably was. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, he'd been pushing for the thick end of 4 furlongs to get him back in the race. So it's just the way that it goes sometimes. I'm just one of them runs that just seems to. It's like a 2 steps forward, 1 step back job, or in my case, 4 or 5 steps back. It's just been treacherous. January's been awful.
Well,
we're in February now anyway.
Racing to get to, and we're going to start by going through most of the races at Newbury. Then we're going to head over to Warwick, and as we go, be having a look at some of the Cheltenham Festival markets that are relevant. And there's a couple that are relevant in the first at Newbury. The 1 o'clock, the Novice hurdle over 2 miles, where Sober Glory, a horse that Andy's spoken about at length already on the show, and his supreme novice chances, is the already well backed 5-4 favourite ahead of Cadastral at 2-1. They opened up 7-4 the pair earlier on today after final decks, but Sober Glory the one for all the money. One of the most interesting runners of the whole weekend, I would say, comes in the form of Fantasy World, last seen winning on the flat for the Balding team. Pitched in a huge gamble in from kind of 33-1 into 10-1 for the Triumph. This will be the first we see of this recruit for the Bamfords and Nicky Henderson, 5-2. And then, it's a horrible each-way race for the bookies, because you're looking at 12-1 bar those, 12-1 Cocktail Blue, and then 33-1 Typhoon Warrior and bigger. So a really interesting 3-runner affair, Andy. It's obviously impossible to really assess the chances of the Henderson horse. But what do you make of the market as it's set up?
Well, it's been a fascinating market all the way through the week. I don't know if Joe's been keeping tabs on the movements in this race. There was a word on the street that Sober Glory would wait to Exeter on Sunday. I think that was always the plan long term after he won here at Newbury. They just want to find out whether he is Supreme Novices class. So they want to run him in a better race rather than under a penalty in another novice race. I think it was a listed affair at Exeter on Sunday. But because that meeting's a bit in the balance, let's say, and it has been all week, they're probably thinking, well, if we put all our eggs in one basket, wait for Exeter, miss Newbury, and then that's off and we miss Newbury, we're going to be staring down the barrel of running him in again within a perhaps 2 week to 3 week period before the festival, which might be too close, or they go to Cheltenham without another run. So I think the old discretion is very much the better part of valor here with Sober Glory and connections. When he drifted this week from an opening show of sort of 11 to 10, 5 to 4 out to 2 to 1 when everyone wanted it about Cadastral, because they all heard the same thing, that if Sober Glory doesn't run, it's going to be a match between Cadastral and Fantasy World, with Cadastral having a course and distance win next to his name. The other one hasn't jumped in a hurdle in public. That sort of 3 to 1 this in the week had been dried up to 7 to 4. So now Sober Glory's back in. It's thrown a bit of a spanner back in the works for those that have been thieving the prices. As it stands at the moment, I think Sober Glory very much is the one. Now he's going to run, or looks like he's going to run. He's already proven himself around the track. More so, he did a really extraordinary time when he won it. It's one of the fastest novice stroke main hurdles that we got. Well, actually, it wasn't a main hurdle. It was a novice hurdle that he won here 24 days ago. And there were some good comparisons on that card as well. Rich Ritchie had a nice horse of Henderson's that won the next race. Fire warning or something like that.
Fire warning.
Yeah, fire warning. And there was a 45 length difference between Sober Glory and Fire Warning. So they think quite a bit of Fire Warning, and Sober Glory absolutely battered him. And he beat a horse called It's Tipsy, was it? Or something like that. It's Top or It's Tipsy. Oliver Signes, who went to Carlisle and won the other day. Even the fourth horse, Yield to Core, ran well yesterday at Taunton. So the time figure's already been advertised by the second and the fourth. And he's already beaten Cadastral as well very easily at Chepstow. So unless Fantasy World does something extraordinary first time out for a juvenile, which is possible. I mean, it happened to Active Innocence the other week, didn't it, when Manila Yoga beat him with a weight for age scale. But it'll take a good horse to beat Sober Glory. He's just very fast, very good over his hurdles, a strong stayer at the trip. And if he is going to be a Grade 1 Supreme horse, he's got to be winning this. Yeah, that race that he won 24 days ago couldn't have worked out any better. The second and the fourth have both run well since. The second has won. The fourth has franked the form with a good run down in Taunton the other day. So he's already beaten Cadastral as well, quite comfortably, in a Chepstow maiden hurdle where he won by 12 lengths, pulling away. So unless Fantasy World does something extraordinary first time off the bat, which of course can be achieved by juveniles, we saw the other day when Active Innocence got beat by Manila Yoga, then if he is going to be a Grade 1 Supreme winner or contender, he's got to be winning this and putting this lot away. So he's going to be very difficult to beat Sober Glory in my eyes.
And Sober Glory is also 33 to 1 with priced up.bet for the Supreme Novice, which Andy already flagged as being a selection of yours. If you haven't already got a priced up account, loads of big prices across the Price Boost page and plenty else there to make sure you do go and sign up for an account if you haven't got one already. Joe, how do you see this?
Yeah, I mean, very similar to Andy. I think Sober Glory is without doubt the one to beat here. I know he has to give £4 to Cadastral this time, but I don't see that reversing the result by any means. When he did beat Cadastral at Chepstow, he had a nice bit of good to soft ground. It's likely going to be soft here. I actually think that's only going to suit Sober Glory even more. So even though there's a £4 swing, I think the price of 13 to 8 for Sober Glory to confirm that form is more than fair. It is fascinating that we've got Fantasy World in here, George. He was given a rating of 103 on the flat. But there's something interesting in his pedigree. He's out of a high chaparral dam. And Seven Barrows unleashed Fire Warning a few weeks ago. He's another came from a high chaparral dam. Now this is significant because High Chaparral was actually the sire of Altior for Seven Barrows, and we know how good obviously he went on to be. Now they could have pitched this fella into a maiden hurdle if they wanted to, but they seem more than happy to chuck him into novice company against Sober Glory and Cadastral, and it's going to take some effort to stop the front two here. So they must think enough of him to run in this race. The market has sort of shown some support his way as well. He's gone from 7 to 2 into 5 to 2. So the money's down, and despite receiving weight, they get this weight for a reason, these 4-year-olds, because they're not physically ahead or physically ready as some of these 5 and 6-year-olds. So from a market perspective, he's a little bit short, but he's certainly interested on the side of the pedigree that the Seven Barrows team seem to be buying a lot of these horses coming out of High Chaparral dams, and with good reason too. So that being said, I'd be deeply surprised if Sober Glory couldn't confirm that form of Cadastral here. I don't think the £4 is going to be enough. And like I said, I think the soft ground is only going to benefit the favourite more. So Sober Glory should take some beating, but Cadastral definitely worth keeping an eye on with regards to that pedigree, George.
Interesting stuff. Going to be some good pointers for both the Supreme and the Triumph there in the first at Newbury. We're going to bypass the handicap hurdle. Although I will give the guys a chance if they fancy anything strong at the end of the show to come back to any races we haven't covered and go straight to the 210, the Denman Chase. Just 4 runners here after Django Bay was a confirmed non-runner. Haiti Color is the 8-13 favourite ahead of Long Press at 15-8. Leave of absence 11-1. Risking the ground 40-1. And obviously there are some clues here with regards to the Gold Cup, where now after the weekend, Factor File is the 4-1 favourite ahead of Django Bay at 9-2. The Jukebox Man at 11-2. Gaelic Warrior 15-2. Haiti Color 10-1. Galopin de Champ out to 8-1 now for the Gold Cup. So, given that the Denman Chase is a trappy affair, Joe, I'll hand over to you and say, can you find a bet there? And if not, who's your current Gold Cup fancy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually looking to take Haiti Couleur on this weekend, George. I'm not totally sure the price is right when you go and take a look at some of the back form. I certainly wouldn't want to be backing him at 8-11, 8-13, whatever he is currently. Anyway, I don't think it would be the most comfortable watch for a horse you're backing at that sort of price. His only attempt in a 3-mile Grade 1 so far came in the Betfair Chase, where he obviously pulled up. Now, if you go back and take a look at his form either side of that, he's won a Welsh National over 3 miles 6, and then he won a hurdles race at Newbury 3 starts back. And I've got him running to about 153 there over hurdles, and still not enough to trouble Long Presse over fences yet. His 3-mile chase form simply isn't good enough as it stands. Whereas you look at Long Presse last time out, despite his age, he was still able to run Spillan's Tower to 3/4 of a length in the Cotswold Chase. I still think Haiti Couleur has got to come up to that level. Now, even though he'd be the one that you would say could still have some potential to do more, he hasn't actually shown it yet if you look through the form book. And I think Long Presse will probably jump him into submission here. Haiti Couleur isn't necessarily a horse you'd fancy in some sort of tactical battle either. So for me, Long Presse has got the form at the moment. I suppose you'd have to be concerned about the Venetia Williams form. The stable are seemingly struggle to bang in the winners, but they're better horses like Jello and Long Presse, for example. They have actually still been running well despite the yard's evidently poor form. So I'm not convinced that Haiti Couleur is the one you'd want to side with here. I think the 2-1 about Long Presse in what looks to be a match is more than fair. He's got a higher rating. He only has to give £2 away. I don't necessarily see why they're this way round in the betting. I couldn't have either for a Gold Cup though, George, personally. We've obviously got a wide open affair this year. We've just had the Irish Gold Cup unfold, which now to me would suggest that they'll roll the dice and throw Factor File into a Gold Cup. And then obviously they could still have the likes of Gaelic Warrior and Galopin de Champ. But I'm very keen at the moment on the 2 English runners, Django Bay and the Jukebox Man. I was of the impression that the Jukebox Man wouldn't stay 3 mile 2 prior to watching the King George. But the fact that he was able to get himself back in front after making a slight error at the last suggests to me that the extra 2 furlongs going around Cheltenham will be no issue at all. So I don't see a Gold Cup winner in here. I think Haiti Couleur will get taken down by Long Presse. And I don't think it'll have too much of a bearing on the big race in March at the moment, George.
Good stuff. Andy, are you team Haiti Couleur or team Long Press?
Yeah, I'd probably be Haiti Couleur. I backed Long Press in the Cotswold Chase last time out, and I thought he had a bit of a freebie up the front. If ever a race is set up perfectly for him to take the other two, that was it. Like I say, he had an uncontested lead. He jumped really well. He was about 5 clear at the top of the hill. I thought, God, the other two got to get a bit of a shift on here to beat him. And Spillan's Tower managed to cut him down. Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed. Like I say, it's probably through my own pocket, I suppose, that it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? Sometimes if you back a horse and you think they're going to win and they don't, you see them in a slightly different light. But it is the Venetia, which has put me off. And I think it's something like 2 months without a winner, which is unheard of for a stable of her stature, particularly this time of year, January, February, when the mud's flying. It's manna from heaven. She's normally racked up, 20, 30 winners by now. But the fact she's gone through such a fallow period has got to be a concern. And Haiti Couleur was back to his best last time out. The key to him is his jumping. And Newbury's an absolute haven for horses like him. With his technique, he is such a fantastic jumper, probably one of the best jumpers in training. And a lot of these races, small field races, tend to get dominated by the horse who's going to go off in front. I can't imagine that Sean Bowen won't have licensed us to press the button from the start and set a good rhythm. So yeah, I'd be in the Haiti Couleur camp. Whether I'd back him at 8-13, he's a beaut point. It's not kind of price I'd normally play at, but for those that do, then he probably looks one of the safest bets on the card.
And Andy, what we saw from the DRF last weekend with Factor File, an impressive winner, Galopin de Champs not running to the expected level, Gaelic Warrior, with a gallant run in second. How do you see the current Gold Cup market?
I'm still amazed that Factor File's available to back at 4-1. After that run the other day, I thought it'd be a good deal short. It's fairly obvious, I would have thought, now that connections are going to supplement him on the Saturday before, just like they did with I Know the Way You're Thinking. I mean, why they took him out in the first place, I don't know. But like myself, they probably thought, well, is he performing to his absolute best? And the 2.5 mile looked the obvious route, given that he run the Ryanair last year. I think he might have just caught them out with how impressive he was. The time figure was absolutely off the scale. The best time figure that we've had by any 3 mile chaser for about the last 3 or 4 years. It was a seriously strongly run heat. Horses like Affordale Fury, Spindlebury, we're waving the white flag coming out the back straight. They were walking on the running, but some horses were really, really tired. I mean, I know the way of thinking, couldn't even jump the last. He was that tired. So it just shows you with the performance that he did put. A performance that I don't think any UK horse could have matched. I couldn't imagine Django Bay or the Jukebox Man, with the greatest respect to them, running to that level and being so dominant. The way he hit the line, he looked phenomenal as well. So I do think he'll be supplemented, and I think he'll be 2-1 or under on the day, and he looks a really strong favourite as far as I could see.
Good stuff. Yeah, we'll move on to the fourth race on the card, the third race of the preview. It is, of course, the Game Spirit over an extended 2 miles. Lalamba is the 8-11 favourite, ahead of Saint Segal at 5-1, Liberty Hunter 6-1, 8-1 Master Chewy, Calico 14-1, Meet Me by the Sea 20-1 and 50-1 about Brookie. This, of course, feeds straight into the Arkle at the Cheltenham Festival, where Lalamba is the 6-4 favourite, ahead of Kopek de Board at 11-4 with priced up. Cargesi just ahead of Romeo Coolio, or just behind Romeo Coolio in the market. Romeo Coolio 9-2, Cargesi 5-1, 12-1 bar those. Andy Lalamba, a horse that you were kind of keen to take on in the Triumph last year, and your heart was broken as well as the Lalamba backers by Poneros. Where are you in terms of his chasing season?
Yeah, nothing but impressed with him. He was good first time out at Exeter. 1 or 2 people looked to slightly knock him, but I thought he was really efficient over his fences. I think the key was he never looked like falling. He might have been a little bit up and down and a little bit roundy over some of his obstacles, but he looked, I would say, assured in what he was doing. It took him a while to warm up at Sandown next time out, when Be Aware was really knocking out good fractions in that graded race. And as soon as he sort of got to him down the back, there was only ever going to be one winner. He stayed on very strongly. Be Aware is a really good yardstick to lots of 2 mile form, obviously with no questions asked, beating him at Windsor and tying in nicely with July Flower. So for Lalamba to kick him into touch on that occasion was really impressive. A lot depends on obviously what Kopek de Board does, whether he's going to get some real stiff competition at the festival. Obviously there's Romeo Coolio who could easily go in there as well, and 1 or 2 others, Mambo number 5. So yeah, I mean at the moment he's definitely worthy market leader. If he beats these older horses, which you'd rather like to hope he can do, because let's face it, they're not champion chasers. The likes of Master Chewy, your Saint Segals, your sort of Calicos of this world are glorified handicappers that have worked their way through the ranks. But the likes of Saint Segal, when he comes up against a Thistle Ask, and when they take on the proper graded horses, they tend to come unstuck. And there's no doubt that Lalamba's a Grade 1 horse. He was a Grade 1 horse over hurdles, and he's going that way over fences. So yeah, I think the market's got this right. If I was going to have a bet without the favourite, I would say the other Novice has got a bigger chance of running well than his market suggests. Meet Me by the Sea. I've been really impressed with the way he's going. He was good but unspectacular first time out, but he was really good at air last time. They went a proper gallop in that race. Fingal Bridge was sort of flat to the boards, and he got well turned over. And he's a good horse, Fingal Bridge, on soft ground. And I thought, well, maybe by the Sea, one with a bit in hand. It's interesting that Ben's running him here. It's a bit of an odd move in some respects to run a Novice against older horses like that. It's not Nicky sometimes does it, but not necessarily Ben. But he's got Manbo number 5 in the Kingmaker, so he's obviously looking to get another run into this fella. So I don't see him disgracing himself maybe by the Sea. So yeah, I'd be Lalamba. again, really strong down the front end. But if you're looking for an exotic bet, Meet Me by the Sea might pick up some pieces here because I think they're going to go quite quick.
Meet Me by the Sea, the one to look out for bigger prices there for Andy Lalamba, the right favourite, the justified favourite. Anything, Andy, before we move to Joe, anything for you in the Arkle market as it is?
No, I had a few quid on Lalamba after he won last time out, but nothing flash. I mean, it's not even worth talking about. But I'm happy with the bet I've had, and saves me backing him on the day because I think he'd be odds on, probably or close to odds on the day, particularly if Kopek the board doesn't run.
Joe?
Yeah, really looking forward to seeing Lalamba here, George. Very brave move for them to run here, I think, as well, before the Cheltenham Festival, because it's quite important timing with these novices to make sure that they're priming themselves for the right time. So they need to make sure they get it right this weekend, and I think they will. Look, he's got a mark of 157. That's still quite likely to underestimate his true ability. And like Andy said, you can look at some of the runners in here. Plenty of decent yardsticks, but you wouldn't say necessarily any of them are up to grade 2, grade 1 company. I will echo what Andy said there with regards to Meet Me by the Sea as well. I put him up on oddschecker as one of my horses to follow this season, and I think by them throwing him in here, they can give him a good effort, give him a good crack at the whip for this sort of run. And if it goes wrong, they're probably just going to preserve that handicap mark for maybe the Jack Richards at the Cheltenham Festival. He's definitely a horse going places too, so I'd probably echo the two selections, or the two horses that Andy has mentioned there. And I'd like to see Lalamba go and get the job done here. Not sure what to make of Kopek the board. He's obviously going to go here to Cheltenham much less experienced than Lalamba and Romeo Coolio, who's had a really good season winning grade 1s over 2 miles and 2 mile 5. So there's a few horses in here with very different profiles, but Lalamba is the one that we seemingly haven't seen the best of just yet. He's very nimble, and I quite like the way that he won last time out at Sandown. I know a lot could be said about his jumping, but when he got to the last, he bucked his legs to the right side. He was really enjoying himself. There was plenty left in the tank, so I find it hard to see him getting beat here by anything other than some quirk of fate, and hopefully then he can go on to the Arkle and do himself justice, because at this point in time he probably is the one I'd side with. I'd just give a brief word to Kapar Pike though, George, for Willie Mullins. He is a very similar horse to Django Bay. He finishes his race strongly, but he probably doesn't have genuine 2 mile pace with regards to a galloping speed. He finds it a little bit much. And in an Arkle there's plenty of horses that can make errors, and this horse will seriously fly up that hill if he's not too far away on that home bend. If he jumps well at Cheltenham, he could be a live contender, but at the moment I do see it all going Lulamba's way.
Couple of positive Lalamba fans there ahead of the 2:45 there at Newbury, the Game Spirit Chase on Saturday, and Lalamba, as we say, currently 6-4 with priced up, best price in the market. For the Arkle, that will surely be a lot shorter, should the guys be correct. One more race we'll quickly cover off at Newbury, the 320. Let It Rain is the 5-2 favourite ahead of Un Soin à la Vie at 5-1 alongside All In You, 7-1 Lanesborough, 8-1 Tutti Quanti, 10-1 Bar Those. Joe, anything you like here?
Well, I'm definitely going to be taking on the favourite here, George. A lot of people are talking about Let It Rain like she's a good thing, and I'm not so sure that's the case myself. She looks a little bit of a quirky sort. I don't want to go into a race like this backing an 11-4 favourite off the back of a horse being quite quirky. I just feel like you're on the back foot straight away. You're going to need a lot of things to go right for if she's going to get the job done here. I would like a little bit more experience. Unsons à la Vie is sort of coming into the equation. But the horse for me, I think the penny dropped last time out for Tutti Quanti. He's one of only 2 course and distance winners in the race. Bucephalus is the other, but he doesn't seem to have too much of a chance. Now, 138 is probably starting to get on the high side for Tutti Quanti, but when you look at the first 5 or 6 in the bet, and there's a few quirky sorts, Tutti Quanti seems like the most straightforward to me, and I think this would have been the target plan ever since he won the last day. So I think he'll be absolutely primed for this, and rather back and Let It Rain at 11-4 with quirks, I'd much rather back Tutti Quanti each way at 9-1, because I'd expect a much more solid effort for your money.
Tutti Quanti there, 9-1 there, 8-1 with priced up bet for Joe. Andy, how do you see this?
Yeah, I think Joe's spot on with his assessments of Let It Rain. I just think Dan Skelton obviously has been pigeonholed into the category of being a very shrewd target trainer. But there are certain races that he does really well in. Excuse me, the Coral Cup, for instance. We know the exploits of that horse that won a couple of years on the spin. Is no longer with us, sadly. Yeah, exactly, Alangadan. And the County Hurdle is another race that he's farmed in recent times. But he's yet to win this race. So he's got to do something he hasn't done before. Not necessarily sure she's absolutely miles ahead of a handicap mark either. So I'd be against her at the prices. You'd have to respect Ensemble La Vie because the Twist and Davies camp have done really well in this race. They've run it 3 times before. Splash of Ginge back in 2014. Ballyandy. Al Dancer won it in 2019. They've had loads of place horses as well. They're all novices. I Like to Move It was second a few years ago. Master Chewy ran in it. Guard Your Dream. Sir Valentine was 4th in it. So any novice that they run in it usually runs well, and this has been laid out for the race. There's no doubt about that. But I do like another up-and-coming horse as well, and that's Warren Greatchety's All In You. Now, he should have beaten Dance and Glance at Ascot a couple of runs ago. He was given a patient right out the back, but he made a bad mistake at the last one. He was coming through with a challenge up the inside, but he still beat Let It Rain fairly readily, and he made up the thick end of about 10 lengths on Dan Skelton's mare in a very short space of time. He's got a very, very good turn of foot, this horse. And not many horses come from the back of the field at Sandown as well. Joe would know that. It's a very demanding track to quicken from the back of the field. Now, Hot Fuzz made the run in at Sandown in that race that he won. David Bass was criticised by his actually own trainer for not going fast enough. So they obviously didn't go very quickly. So it should have suited, in theory, the ones off the front. But All In You absolutely mowed his field down the outside with a humongous turn of foot. And I think he's still very well handicapped off 127. He obviously likes soft ground. He's won at Sandown. All his best form in Auteuil was on heavy ground. And I think he's improving at a rapid rate of knots. So I think the 6-1 available for him is too big. And I do think Tutti Quanti will also go well as well. I think it's a good shout by Joe. Very solid. His form's worked out really well with Indivar Blue winning subsequently. So it's not the classiest of renewals. Normally you win it with a 145, 150 horse. So the 138 top weight tells you that it's not strong. But I do think All In You is the best handicapped horse in this race.
All In You there for Andy, 5-1 as it stands with priced up. We'll move over to Warwick for a couple of races. We'll cover off the Mare's Hurdle now, the 115 over 2 miles and 5 furlongs. Jubilee Alpha is the even money favourite ahead of Hollygrove Char-Char at 4-1. La Pinsonnière also 4-1. Flying Fortune 7-1. And Analysing is 25-1. Andy, anything for you here?
Yeah, I respect the favourite, Jubilee Alpha, but she hasn't got a head in front so far this season. I thought she had every chance the other day at Sandown, but Nurse Susan was too hot for her. I do think Hollygrove Char-Char's got a decent chance of reversing form when they met at Taunton last season. If you recall, Jubilee Alpha was right on song there at the time. And Gavin Sheehan went all the way around the inside on the slop on Hollygrove Char-Char, but she still ran really well, finished off her race nicely. She's been sent over fences, and it's been a bit of a hit and miss campaign so far. She won 2 starts ago, but I put her up at Windsor last time out, and she never jumped a fence. It was only her courage and her qualities that got her in with half a chance turning for home, but she was a busted flush at the second last, and she ended up sort of petering out of the argument, having expended a lot of energy trying to get back in the race. But she does love testing conditions, and I think this track will really play to her strengths rather than Taunton when she last ran against Jubilee Alpha. So I think Jubilee Alpha's vulnerable at a shortish price. She's just not one I want to be getting involved in at evens. Yeah, with Javy Snowden having such a good season, particularly with his mares, then Hollygrove Char-Char back over hurdles would be the one for me there at the prices.
Hollygrove Char-Char, the 4-1 there for Andy. Joe?
Yeah, good to see in total agreement there with Andy. I've never quite taken to Jubilee Alpha just yet. She finishes her races well enough, but she hasn't got the strongest finish, you wouldn't say. She's been picked off now twice by Nurse Susan, who's obviously been well handicapped at the times, but she doesn't look like she's a horse going forward, Jubilee Alpha. Whereas Hollygrove Char-Char is a horse that could still have plenty in the tank. Like Andy said, we've seen a bit of a mismatch of a season. She was third in that Colin Parker to Resplendent Grey and Handstands. Ran a blinder that day, and you know, that form has to be taken with a fair bit of substance, because the front two are seriously good animals as well. So I think she's the one that's probably got a little bit more class about her. Like Andy said, reverting to hurdles might just be the little bit of confidence she needs to get her head back in front as well. And like I said, Jubilee Alpha for me isn't really one to trust. Even jumping the last, if Jubilee Alpha's ahead, you'd be clinging onto your docket to make sure that line comes as quick as possible, George. But I think Holly Grove Char Char, similar to Andy, I think she's the price and the right bet here. Yeah.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, the Kingmaker now is going to be the last race that we cover in detail before I ask you guys for any other business. Mambo number 5 is the 11 to 10 favourite. Oh no, I lie. Mambo number 5 and Still Ally are the 11 to 10 joint favourites, and the Always Dangerous outsider of 3, Mirabad 8 to 1. Joe, any thoughts here?
Yeah, I really like this race, George. For considering it's just a 3-runner race, we should have an absolute cracker. Ben Paulin's doing an unbelievable job with Mambo number 5. He's bred to do much better over a much longer trip, but he's been running over 2 miles. He's been winning from the front. Anything that closes on him, he seems to find and find and find. He's just got no right to be doing what he's done this year, but he does keep getting it done. He has been receiving weight for those wins, though. Rightly so. He's only a 5-year-old, but he only gets £2 here from Steel Ally, and I think that's where I'll draw the line. I think Steel Ally's been a real strong traveller. His jumping's been excellent, and he's probably a little bit more versatile than Mambo number 5. I know I said he's been winning over 2 miles and hasn't really had the right to, but I think his class has been getting it done. But I do think with Steel Ally, he's meeting a real classy rival here. He's not going to do much wrong as well, and Sam Thomas has been running his horses when they are ready. He won't rush them. And even at this price, it is basically a match, because I don't think Mirabad's going to be able to get into this off a mark of 138. The 11 to 10, if you're getting 11 to 10 for either, Steel Ally is absolutely the bet for me. But Mambo number 5 is well worth keeping in the tracker for next season. Just like Meet Me by the Sea, 2 real nice novices for Ben Paulin. He's probably just going to come up a little bit short here for me, though, George. I think Steel Ally is the bet.
Still Ally the one to go for 11 to 10, the pair for Joe. Andy, you in agreement in this match? You took him on last time. Mm-hmm. What's the case here?
No, I agree. I think the key to this race, more than anything, about weights and measures and what you think of these two ability-wise, is just the trap configuration. And we know that those 5 fences down the back at Warwick suit front runners. If you get into a good rhythm over those fences down there, you can make lengths here, there and everywhere. And that might prove the advantage that Steel Ally needs, because I think he's going to make the running here. I know Mirabad can make the running, but Steel Ally's a real strong pace setter, as we saw last time at Ascot. When he put his rivals to the sword, he clocked a very fast time when he won that day. But I think there was plenty of substance to that form as well. You know, the fact that no questions asked, who went on to win a graded race next time at Windsor, and Jacks Jr., who bounced back to form at Sandown last week, were really struggling to keep up with Steel Ally. Suggested that was a better run than it looked at the time. And I think he's probably more, or out of the two, going to be more suited to the softer ground. It's going to be quite testing there at Warwick over the weekend. So if he gets out in front and gets into a rhythm, which I predict he will, it's going to be putting a lot of pressure under Mambo number 5. And to keep asking him all the time to keep coming from the back, because he keeps getting held up at Kempton. He was held up at Aintree. He was held up to keep coming through, and passing horses is always tricky. And under these conditions over the weekend, I think that's going to be a tough ask. So I think out of the two at 11 to 10, I think Steel Ally, under these conditions the weekend, is the one to be with.
Given that Mambo number 5 is 14 to 1 with price up for the Arkle, and Steel Ally is 20 to 1, I mean, presumably that will reverse should the way you guys see this race panning out does occur. Is there any juice in that price for Steel Ally?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or do you think?
Yeah.
He's got the class.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the Arkle is still the plan for Steel Ally. But then when you look at it at Cheltenham, it depends on what the ground is as well. He might not get these conditions. Whereas, like I say, you're looking at these two just at face value at the weekend in a straight match on a track that suits front runners on soft ground. It should really play into the strengths of Steel Ally. If Mambo number 5 turns him over, then fair enough. You'd have to just say you'd upgrade his run. But that's in my head how I see it going. But it might be a totally different kettle of fish at Cheltenham. It might be good it might be good or good to soft ground, and there might be a multitude of front runners, and Steel Ally might not get to the front. He's ineffective. So I think you just have to take each race as it is and dealing with its merits on the day. it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to uphold the form if the two were to meet again at Cheltenham. Different track, different ground, different day, different circumstances.
Joe, is that how you see it too?
Yeah, very similar. I think as well, possibly factored into the prices, that Steel Ally was initially going to go for the Scilly Isles over 2.5 miles, and they've sort of sticking to the two mile route here. It's probably a race where a lot of people are focusing on Lulamba, Kopek, Romeo, maybe Carjesi as well, but they maybe haven't taken enough consideration with some of these other runners yet. And Steel Ally, he's a very, very useful tool. I wouldn't put it past him running into a place because he's consistent as well, very straightforward. Where again, Lulamba, we still need to see, just him settle a little bit better perhaps. Kopek's got to come out and prove that he's not going to be so fresh. So he's no mug in this market, George. You'd struggle to put someone off back in Steel Ally. I think you'd be a bit naive to think, that he couldn't run a big race in the Arkle. He's an 8-year-old as well, so I like the fact that he's in a different stage of his career to a lot of these chasers. And 20-1 is more than fair.
Good stuff. Before we let you guys go, Andy, come to you first. Any other business, anything else you want to flag up to the viewers and listeners ahead of the weekend?
Yeah, the other decent graded race, which we haven't covered at Warwick on the Saturday at 3 o'clock. I think we need to pay a bit of lip service to that race because it's a decent one in its own right. Very competitive, as far as I could see. It looks sort of 5-2 the field. But I really like Emmett Mullins is here. Good girl, Kathleen. I like the fact that the Irish trainers dominated a similar race, a listed race at Doncaster the other day. Emmett Mullins actually had a runner in it called Dream On Baby. Got beat by Fleeta Verdance and Jatara's back in third. They absolutely battered the UK counterparts. And Good Girl Kathleen did something at Cork the other week, or the other week before Christmas, that he's not normally done. It was a day when you needed to go wide and look for the better ground on the outside, and she inexplicably was ridden around the inside. I was watching it thinking, what on earth are they doing? But even though she ran on the swamp all the way through the race, she still managed to win, and she won well. She beat some fair yardsticks as well in doing so. She handled the ground. I mean, Calypso Chances in there is a proper mudlark. So I think she's a pretty good tool. The fact that Emmett Mullins has already dipped his bread with Dream On Baby the other week, he pretty much knows where he stands with these kind of mares. So, and he hasn't got a horse like Fleeta Verdance in a race like this to try and beat. So I'd be surprised if Good Girl Kathleen doesn't go very well there for the shrewd Emmett Mullins in that graded contest.
Lovely stuff, yeah. Early prices suggest about 9-2 there for Andy's selection. Joe, anything for you?
Nothing really with regards to a tip in the Jane Seymour that Andy's referring to, but for Racing Club we do actually run a horse here called A Path to Ronda. We've got a little bit to find with Supreme Molinas, but this is a race that Jamie Snowden's won 3 times previously with Hollygrove Cha Cha, You Wear It Well, who won at the festival, and there was another mare, Anything for Love. So he knows what's required to win this race. A Path to Ronda probably hasn't had the last 2 run to suit her. We gave weight to Supreme Molinas on the first occasion. Last time out we ran off levels and she ran a much better race, and this time we actually received £5. So hopefully she can run a good race, George. Whether or not she's good enough to win, I don't know, but hopefully she can run well for us at a decent price.
Great stuff. Cheers to Joe and to Andy for sharing their tips, thoughts and insight ahead of a great weekend's racing. You can find all of their tips at oddschecker, Andy Everyday of Racing and Joe covering the racing and the golf as well. So make sure you check them out and do sign up for a Priced Up account if you haven't got one already. pricedup.bet is where you can go. Plenty of price boosts across different sports you can find up there. Hopefully the guys in the trading room will listen to Andy and Joe's tips and boost a couple of those. Have a look on Saturday to see if they've done that. If you haven't got an account already, make sure you sign up for one and check it out. Plenty up there across sport every single day. We'll be back again next week. Enjoy the racing. Fingers crossed for a couple of winners in there. Fingers crossed none of the jockeys mistake the 50-yard pole for the winning post. And we'll be back again next week. But in the meantime, enjoy the racing and please ensure that you're gambling responsibly.